Hello and welcome to this edition of Standard Deviation, my column and video series. Now it looks like the second coming of Donald Trump is upending the Modi government's decade-long policy of increased protectionism, and this is a good thing. But before I get into why it's a good thing, I had an appeal to make before you, which is please do subscribe to The Print. Not only does it allow us to do the kind of ground reporting, panel discussions and analysis that you've come to like about us, it gets you several benefits. The first, of course, is that it gets you access to our ad light version. It also gets you access to our subscriber exclusive Ask Me Anything sessions where our editors answer your questions live. It allows you to write in to us in our Your Turn section where your opinion is published on The Print as an article, and it gives you access to our special newsletters that come straight to your inbox from our editors about the news of the day. So please do subscribe. The link is in the description of this video. Now let's get back to the column. In all the brouhaha about the tariffs, something important is being lost. Lowering tariffs is actually in our national interest. India needs to lower its import tariffs, not because we fear reciprocal ones by the US, but so that Indian corporate giants can test themselves against global competition and consumers can benefit from increased choice and lower prices. Import tariffs, in any case, are not an economic consideration for the government of India. Data from the budget shows that customs duty isn't a key revenue source. Now, tariffs certainly are a strategic tool, such as when they are used to curb Chinese imports, but they aren't really working there either. Furthermore, non-tariff measures are more effective if such strategic concerns loom large. Apart from the economic and strategic considerations, there's the optics. High import tariffs don't align with Vishwa Guru or leader of the global south ambitions. In other words, it's much harder to extend a hand of friendship when high walls stand in your way. Some of the import duties don't make sense either. For example, India charges a customs duty of rupees 100 per kg on imported almonds. This must be to protect our robust domestic cultivation of almonds, right? Well, consider this. India produced about 4,200 tons of almonds in 2023-24, while it imported 2.6 lakh tons. Domestic almond production is about 1.6% of imports. So what domestic production are we actually protecting? So this must be a revenue thing, you might argue. If India imports so much of various goods, it makes sense from a money-making perspective to impose tariffs on these items. Surely the customs duty is a vital pillar of Indian government finances. Well, not really. The Union Budget 2025-26 presented earlier this month shows that import duties have grown at less than 2% per year on average between 2014-15 and what's been budgeted for 25-26. What's more, India's total import duty collections are budgeted to make up just 8% of total tax revenues in 25-26, down substantially from 20% in 2014-15. And the reason for this is clear. Other tax sources, especially income tax, have grown far faster. But the conclusion remains the same. Import duties are not a significant source of revenue, and keeping them high isn't a fiscally motivated decision. That brings us to the strategic aspect. It's of course important to protect India from the flood of Chinese products that have already been coming in and that will increasingly arrive once Trump's higher tariffs on China come into effect. China has significant overcapacity and will look to other large markets like India. But there are several issues here. The first is that despite India's relatively high tariffs, which are currently at about 12% on a weighted average basis and much higher than 7%, which is what they were in 2014, the imports from China have only grown despite these higher tariffs. The cost differential between Chinese imports and Indian-made items is just too great a factor, even with the tariffs. The second issue concerns who actually pays the tariffs. There seems to be a general perception that if we hike tariffs on Chinese goods, we are somehow imposing a cost on China. This is incorrect. Tariffs are no jingoistic weapon against an external enemy. It is the importers that pay the customs duties, not the exporters. That is, Indian companies, which are in large part small and medium sized, are the ones that bear the cost of higher tariffs, not the Chinese exporters. And then the Indian companies pass this cost on to Indian consumers. This ties into the third aspect of this issue, which is that if India does want to limit Chinese imports, non-tariff measures are more effective and impose a lower cost on Indian companies. For example, India has mandated that solar energy companies that want to benefit from government schemes and incentives must source their modules from an approved list of suppliers. Now you can be sure that this approved list only contains Indian names. The government is all set to do the same for solar cells as well. Similarly, the government issued an order last year mandating that solar water heaters sold in India must carry a Bureau of Indian Standards certification. Again, you can be sure that Chinese imports are not going to receive this certification. Over the last few years, the government has issued several other such quality control orders. These not only benefit customers who are protected from substandard products, but also don't impose any additional cost on Indian importers, while still curbing imports. Now, to be sure, India needs to be careful with such orders. Domestic production of these items needs to quickly catch up with demand. Unless this happens, the only thing such orders will do is to deprive Indian consumers of that particular product. Finally, if the government does choose the tariff route, it has the option of levying targeted and sector-wise tariffs against China, such as in the form of anti-dumping duties. But these should be generally avoided too. The true way Indian companies can eventually become self-sufficient is by being thrown into the global deep end, rather than being coddled in the kiddie pool of domestic markets and high tariffs. Pick any of these government's taglines: Viksit Bharat, Vishwa Guru, Vishwamitra, Atmanirbhar, Sabka Saath, and you'll find each one will benefit from a lowering of import duties. And we have Donald Trump to thank for that. But on that note, that's all from me. Thank you for watching.